Elon Musk just became the world's first trillionaire, $1 trillion. Every headline on the planet covered it. Every news channel called him the richest human being who ever lived. He is not even close. But first, let's understand what $1 trillion actually means, because your brain is not built to process this number. $1 trillion is more than the entire economy of Switzerland. It is more than the entire economy of Poland. It is more than the combined economies of Portugal, Greece, Denmark, and Norway put together. $1 trillion is more than double the GDP of South Africa, the country where Elon Musk was born. His personal net worth is now larger than the entire annual economic output of roughly 160 countries. There are 195 countries on Earth. Elon Musk, one single human being, is personally worth more than 160 of them produced in an entire year. And here is what makes it even more mind-bending. Most of that $1 trillion, he cannot actually spend it. When SpaceX went public in the largest IPO in human history, Musk's wealth jumped on paper. But according to financial filings, he cannot sell a single SpaceX share for at least 1 year. And even after that, selling a significant portion would collapse the stock price and cost him control of the company. This is how modern billionaire wealth works. It is numbers on a screen. It is stock certificates. It is the theoretical value of companies that could be worth half as much tomorrow if the market changes its mind. The three men we are about to talk about had something completely different. They had real wealth, physical wealth. Wealth you could hold in your hand, melt down, and spend anywhere on Earth. Wealth that did not go up or down depending on investor confidence. And each of them controlled a percentage of the entire world's economy that makes Elon Musk look like a rounding error. Let's start with number 3. Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome. The man who, 2,000 years ago, personally owned Egypt. Not governed Egypt, not administered Egypt, owned it. Every grain of wheat that grew along the Nile, every tax collected from its people, every ounce of gold in its reserves. All of it was his personal property. At its peak, the Roman Empire controlled roughly 25 to 30% of the entire world's economic output. And Augustus personally controlled between 20 and 25% of that empire's wealth. Historians and economists who have tried to translate this into modern terms arrive at a number of around $4.6 trillion, nearly 5 times what Elon Musk is worth today. But here is what makes Augustus different from Musk. Augustus did not have shareholders. He did not have a board of directors. He did not have a market that could decide his stock was overvalued and wipe out $200 billion in an afternoon. His wealth was the Roman army, the Roman grain supply, and the physical gold sitting in the vaults of Egypt. It did not fluctuate. It did not depend on quarterly earnings reports. He was also personally funding the entire Roman military, 30 legions, the ancient equivalent of the world's largest army, paid for out of his own pocket. If Elon Musk tried to do that with the United States military today, he would be bankrupt within weeks. Augustus Caesar, $4.6 trillion. Number 3. Number 2 is a name you might have heard of. But what most people don't know is just how incomprehensibly wealthy he actually was. His name was Genghis Khan, and in the 13th century, he built the largest land empire in human history. At its peak, the Mongol Empire controlled 23.5 million square kilometers. That is more land than the entire continent of North America. It stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, from Russia in the north to Vietnam in the south. At one point, the Mongol Empire governed territories containing roughly 1/3 of the entire world's population, and Genghis Khan controlled all of it. Every trade route, every mine, every crop, every city, the entire Silk Road, which was the internet of the ancient world, the single most valuable trade network ever built, ran directly through his empire. Every merchant who wanted to trade between Europe and China paid the Mongols to do it. Economists who have tried to calculate what this means in today's terms arrive at numbers that seem almost fictional. The territories Genghis Khan controlled would represent economic output of between $25 and $120 trillion in today's money. But again, and this is the key point, none of this was on a stock market. There was no IPO. There were no shares. There was no paper. When Genghis Khan wanted money, he sent his army to collect tribute, physical goods, gold, silver, livestock, silk, spices, real things with real value. Elon Musk controls roughly 1% of the global economy. At his peak, Genghis Khan controlled closer to 1/3. The difference is so large it barely makes sense to compare them. Genghis Khan, somewhere between $25 and $120 trillion. And now, number 1. This is the man most people have never heard of. The man whose name does not appear in most school textbooks. The man who is so far ahead of everyone else on this list that historians have essentially given up trying to calculate his true wealth. The man whose spending was so extreme that he accidentally destroyed the economy of an entire country just by passing through it. His name was Mansa Musa, and in 1324 he was the emperor of the Mali Empire in West Africa, and he controlled something more valuable than any army, any trade route, or any stock portfolio. He controlled more than half of all the gold in the known world. Not gold stocks, not gold futures, not paper certificates representing gold sitting in a vault somewhere. Actual physical gold sitting in mines that his empire owned exclusively. At a time when gold was the only money that mattered anywhere on Earth. Think about what that means. Every king in Europe, every sultan in the Middle East, every merchant in Asia, every soldier, every farmer, every baker in the entire medieval world used gold as currency, and Mansa Musa had more of it than all of them combined. Historians estimate his personal fortune at somewhere between $400 and $500 billion in modern terms. But most economists who study this period say those numbers are almost certainly too low, because they cannot account for what it truly means to control half the world's supply of the only currency that existed. In 1324, Mansa Musa decided to make a religious pilgrimage to Mecca, and he did it in a way that had never been seen before, and has never been seen since. He left his capital with a caravan of 60,000 people. 500 slaves walked ahead of him, each one carrying a 6-pound staff made of solid gold. Behind them came 80 camels. Each camel was loaded with between 300 and 500 pounds of gold bars. This was not a military campaign. This was a man going to pray. When the caravan stopped in Cairo, Mansa Musa started giving gold away, not in small amounts. To every beggar he passed, every merchant he met, every stranger in the street. Egyptian historian Al-Omari wrote at the time that there was no person in Cairo who did not receive a sum of gold from him. Within weeks, Cairo's economy collapsed. So much gold had flooded the city that gold became worthless. Prices for basic goods exploded. People who had been given gold found it could barely buy them bread. Mansa Musa had walked through Egypt and broken its entire economy, not through war, not through invasion, just by being generous. Cairo's economy took 12 years to fully recover. Now put that next to Elon Musk. Musk is worth $1 trillion, most of which is locked in stock he cannot sell, in companies that are still losing money. SpaceX lost nearly $5 billion last year. His trillion-dollar number exists because investors believe in what the company might become. Mansa Musa's wealth existed in gold bars loaded onto camels. It did not require investor confidence. It did not require a NASDAQ listing. It could not be wiped out by a bad earnings report or a tweet from a short seller. Elon Musk is the richest person alive. $1 trillion on paper, in the most complex financial system ever built, in a world economy worth $110 trillion. He controls less than 1% of global wealth. Augustus Caesar owned Egypt and funded the world's largest army out of his personal account. Genghis Khan controlled a third of the world's population and every trade route between Europe and Asia. And Mansa Musa held half the world's gold at a time when gold was the world. $1 trillion sounds like the biggest number in history, but history disagrees. And to be fair to Elon Musk, what he built is genuinely extraordinary. He started with nothing, built rockets that land themselves, electric cars that changed an entire industry, and satellites that bring internet to the most remote places on Earth. He did all of that from scratch, in one lifetime, in a world with rules and laws and competition. Mansa Musa was born into gold. Genghis Khan took his wealth at the point of a sword. Augustus Caesar inherited an empire. Elon Musk built his from a laptop and a dream. So maybe the real question is not who had the most. Maybe the real question is who earned it. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Elon Musk deserves to be called the richest person who ever lived? Or does history have a different answer?